Hey guys, what's going on? This is your old pal CHH. Now, it's obviously spooky season, and I've been going through my movie collection and looking at stuff that I haven't talked a whole lot about. The last time I did a video on this was back in like 2013, where I just pulled up my iPhone 3GS and said, look at this, ooh, ah, and ended the video. And I want to talk about this. I was going through my Laserdisc collection because some actually fell down, and I was going through it, and I came to this one. I was like, man, this is like such a legendary Halloween release. I want to talk about this one, show you guys some of the special features that's on this. And one of these special features, I don't know that it was ever put back on a disc. I can't recall. If it has, it's definitely not been multiple releases. This could be the only one. Now, when it comes to Halloween, obviously there are some legendary releases. One of my personal favorites happens to be the Snow Globe VHS release, which I did have somebody reach out to me and say they were going to be able to help me acquire that at a really cheap price. Thank God, I've been trying to. It's such an expensive piece of horror physical media, but it's also a legendary piece of horror physical media. So I'm really hoping that comes to fruition soon. And there's a 25th anniversary DVD that I really love, and that one's a great release, great documentaries on that. And then of course, what's considered the creme de la creme of Halloween releases is probably the Scream Factory release. Now I'm talking obviously about the 3-disc release. As we saw, the Steelbook is excluding that 3rd disc, so you're not getting the television version. And in some sense, I will say that the Scream Factory 4K is the greatest release, but I wouldn't say it's the most legendary release. This release right here that I want to talk to you guys about is one of the greatest Halloween releases of all time, and I can't wait for you guys to see more of it. But a little bit of a history thing I want to talk about. When you guys think about Criterion, now you look at their library and they definitely are a label that puts out high praise films, a lot of really well-made independent films, and I'll simplify it for some of the folks at home. They put out a lot of movies that none of us have really heard about, the average Joe. That's not to discredit the movies that they put out. Let's just call a spade a spade. A lot of movies you see from Criterion put out today, most people when they look at the catalog, they'll know a few, but there'll be titles they've never heard of in their life, which is a good thing because they're spotlighting a lot of well-made films that don't get a huge audience. But what's interesting is when you look at Criterion back in the 90s, that's right, the 90s, they were the company. I mean, they had the titles. They had, for instance, get this, RoboCop from Criterion. And guess what? That was another release that they did that was on Laserdisc as well as DVD. That's one of the best releases of all time. Their RoboCop release is outstanding. And another title they had was, you guessed it, right here, the Rolls Royce of Halloween releases, the Criterion Laserdisc. Look at this beauty. Look at this thing. The Criterion Collection, John Carpenter's Halloween. Now this thing is obviously a gatefold. I want to talk a little bit about this, and then we'll talk about the special features that it has, because that's what's really, really cool. So yeah, mine is not in perfect condition. As you can see, I do have some creasing in the corner, but it's just as well. Now this thing was put out, like I said, by Criterion, and this release, when I got it, I was blown away. Absolutely blown away by the quality of this. Now, there's a quick backstory to this we got to talk about. So, when I was a little kid, I remember being at a friend's house, and I was sitting down on the bottom of the couch, like next to it, because the older friends, they all took up the couch, and so I was sitting down on the floor in front of the couch, and there was a little side table next to me. But under that side table was like a little crate, like a milk crate that you would see back in the day, and it was filled with what I thought were records. And I started flipping through them, and I was like, oh, these are all movies. Maybe these are all soundtracks. No, they were laser discs, and I had never heard of a laser disc. There's this funny thing where people think, you know, laser discs come from a different parallel universe, because they'll say, I grew up in the 90s. I never saw a laser disc a day in my life, which is so funny to think about. No, but that's why I learned about it. And their parents were like, oh, you looking at the movies, Christian? I was like, yeah, what are these? They're like, those are movies. Those are laser discs. My first time ever hearing about them. So fast forward to 2010, I'm just having a day where I'm sitting down, and I literally have a flashback to that moment in my life. I had fallen in love with horror at that point, and movies and movie collecting, and I dove into Laserdisc. Now, one of the titles I got maybe 2 years into collecting Laserdisc was this right here. And I bought this without even realizing what it was. I remember having a conversation with a friend years later about, you know, Halloween releases, and they would say the one that's like the best, this was probably 2018-19, was the Criterion Halloween release. And I was like, oh, you mean this one? And they were like, oh, you got it. Now, this is not the only Laserdisc release that Halloween had. I believe Media Home Entertainment put out a couple releases for Halloween. It might have been the initial release for this probably came on Laserdisc in 82, 83, maybe even a little bit earlier, maybe 80. But this came out in the mid-90s. Now, what did I pay for this one at the time? I probably paid somewhere around $35 to $40. What does this go for now? Probably at least double that. The interesting thing about the Laserdisc market is, specifically with horror, some of these titles have gotten pricey. And, you know, when I watched this, this is one of those titles where I learned something amazing. How during this time, the directors were getting all the uses they wanted to be able to put this movie out the way it was, for lack of a better term, supposed to come out. You know, this was letterboxed. This was the first time, as far as I know, the movie came out looking like it did in the theater. And there are special features on here that are amazing. What I want to do is look at the back of this and read you guys what it says. So it says on here, it's useless to take a lofty view on an instant schlock horror classic, but there are reasons why John Carpenter's Halloween alone in the last decade stands with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and before that with Psycho, in which Hitchcock subverted the genre to different ends. The resemblance of Halloween to the Romero film, an assault on credibility couched in documentary prose, the utter emplacement of the antagonist, a faceless psychopath of terrifying strength and preternational obscenity who lays siege to two households of teenagers. Okay, I gotta be honest, that was painful to read. You know, let's simplify it for me. I can't do all these big words, I just can't. Special features on here are so cool because there's a Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel interview that I've never seen put on anything else as far as I can remember. All right, so we've got new widescreen digital transfer in the original aspect ratio of 2:35:1. That was new at the time. Screen-specific audio commentary featuring writer-director John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, and actress Jamie Lee Curtis. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert give splatter movies 2 thumbs down while praising Halloween in a controversial 1980 sneak preview segment. The original theatrical trailer, separate music and effects tracks, additional footage shot for the 1980 television release, photo essay on the making, marketing, and mimicking of Halloween, illustrated filmographies of John Carpenter, Donald Pleasence, and Jamie Lee Curtis, genre guide by John McCarty, author of splatter movies Breaking the Last Taboo of the Screen, including capsule reviews of cold-blooded killer movies from The Bad Seed to Halloween 5. About the transfer, this was cool. The Criterion Collection is proud to present Halloween. It's an original theatrical aspect ratio of 2:35:1. This transfer is made from a 35mm Panavision print minted from the original negative. The 35mm magnetic master, mono soundtrack, and 35mm magnetic mono music and effects track. Footage from the television release is presented in full frame, recreated from the original 1-inch broadcast master. Now you're probably saying to yourself, how do they have special features on here? Well, Laserdisc is one of the places where special features really got its footing. You know, Laserdisc is where we were able to do chapter selection. You could change the audio tracks. So the way you would do it on your remote is, you know, on a Laserdisc remote, there will be an audio button and you press that and it'll swap. So you could be watching the movie and swap the audio track and boom, you'll be right there where the audio commentary picks up. Now, obviously Laserdisc can't hold as much room as a Blu-ray or a DVD could, but there's 2 discs. Now guys, I'm not going to read you this whole thing in here, but I will let you guys get a look at that. And, you know, feel free to pause it. I'll do some up-close pictures as well. That way you guys can see what it says and you guys can read all that, which is really cool.
That Halloween is directed and acted with a great deal more artistry and craftsmanship than the sleaze bucket movies we've been talking about. But there's another much more important difference. As you watch Halloween, your basic sympathies are always enlisted on the side of the woman, not with the killer. The movie develops its women characters as independent, intelligent, spunky and interesting people. Halloween does not hate women.
Yeah, you know, when I saw that scene, I must admit I wasn't really worrying about the woman as much as I was placing myself in that closet and thinking about that killer, how I would handle it. And I was also appreciating the fact that I think Halloween not only doesn't hate women, but it loves film and filmmaking. That music is just fabulous. The way he starts one theme and lays another thing on top of it, keeping the other theme. Really good. Also, the light coming through the slats in that closet.
Let's show you what a Laserdisc looks like. They're both the same looking, but I'll just show you one. Here we go. This is one of the Laserdiscs. Now, they're big. Here it is. So, on this side, you actually see it's got an orange inner label that even says Halloween on it, which is really cool. You got the pumpkin face. And on the other side, it's the black one. Now, the interesting thing about Laserdisc is this is a thick disc. You may not be able to tell that much from here, but it's a very, very thick disc. And as interesting as it sounds, Laserdisc is still technically an analog format. Now, the beauty is the uncompressed mono soundtrack on here really does sound good. I have had the pleasure of watching this release numerous times with the audio track on here just bumping through a good system. You know, because you could, like I said, when Laserdisc became the thing in the 90s, you could watch movies as close to at the theater at that time. And some still say that Laserdisc has benefits to it cinematically that no other format really does the way Laserdisc did. It's such an interesting format. This was the filmmaker's format in the 90s and in the 80s, but really in the 90s. And when it comes to Halloween releases, this is one of the most legendary releases right here. And that Siskel and Ebert thing is so cool because, like I said, I don't know if that was ever put back on a disc ever again. And I love watching this segment on here. So guys, this is probably the most legendary Halloween release, in my opinion, the Criterion Collection Laserdisc. If you could ever get your hands on this, even if you're not a Laserdisc person, this is a great collector's piece to have. And if you do own it, well, cheers to you guys. Happy spooky season, and enjoy yourself some Halloween. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.